If I can keep a baby alive, I'm capable of figuring anything out.
The psychology around deciding to be a stay-at-home mom.
On the front end, I was just sure the world looked down on me.
Oh yeah, I know how to learn. I can pretty much do anything.
Most women leave money on the table because they don't have the confidence to say, I deserve more.
You do hit a glass ceiling pretty quick.
It's never been like men.
Okay. I know very few men who ever undersell. It's always, the company would literally go bankrupt without me.
The more confident a woman is, the bigger her dreams get to be.
Welcome back to the Rolle with Steve podcast. Jacqui Reese. It's good to have you here with me today.
It's good to be here.
You went from being a stay-at-home mom without much marketing experience to now leading marketing teams in multiple companies in a very short time frame. And I want to tell that story today, but also glean the insights for other stay-at-home moms who are about to re-enter the workforce, because there's going back into the workforce and then there's doing it the way that you did it.
Yeah.
So walk me through first just the psychology around deciding to be a stay-at-home mom, and then bring me up to speed on you deciding to come back into the workforce.
I mean, my story is probably not the exact same as everybody else's, but we had 2 kids, and I finished school and was working full-time as a caseworker and liked my job a lot, but just didn't spend a ton of time with my kids, during the week, and didn't love that. So when we made the decision to have that one more kid, we had a his and hers, we wanted an ours, it was, I'm doing this one differently. Like, I'm going to be in it 100%. And, I knew that would give the older 2 all of my time and attention too. But the second that he was born, it was my entire focus shift from full-time work to full-time, all-in stay-at-home mom. And so for me, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it 100%. So it was all in every step of the way. I'm going to keep the whole house clean. I'm going to bake all the food. I'm going to learn to make bread. I'm going to garden. All of the things to me that meant stay-at-home mom. And, social media definitely helps fill in those gaps. So like, this is what stay-at-home moms are doing. And I was like, check. And I loved it. The stay-at-home mom community is homeschooling. Let's homeschool the stay-at-home mom community. And I definitely I loved it. We built a house on acreage. And when I say built, like, we built our house. Just did all of the things that I wanted during that time period. But as my older 2 were getting into high school, they're now adults. And my youngest was full-time in school. He didn't need me during the day at all. I really started feeling that I've done all of the things in this stage of life. What's my next stage? I want to go back to work. I knew I could go get a job at Starbucks or, whatever the job was, but I knew I wanted a career. Like, what is the next stage of my life, and how do I love it and put 100% into it the way that I have with stay-at-home mom? And so I started looking for that next career, and not like, if you would have told me 4 years ago, like, you're going to be in marketing and you'll be the chief of staff over here and you're going to lead this team over here, I would have laughed at you. But it was this very natural, find the job, then find the confidence, then chase the dream. And so I think that the transition piece for me was the confidence. Like, it's embarrassing to be in a, job interview stage where you're like, well, for the last 10 years, I made bread.
Yeah. Why do you think that level of confidence wasn't there? And relate that to how other stay-at-home moms might feel as they're coming back into the workforce, that it's like, I was making bread.
Yeah. I think it's, probably just a story we tell ourselves. I didn't actually have one person like be shocked by it but on the front end, I was just sure the world looked down on me because I had made the decision to stay home and to just be a stay-at-home mom. I think that word just gets thrown around a lot, where anyone who's done it is like, it's a lot of work. I wasn't able to look at my resume and be like, okay, so I led everyone's schedules. I had it memorized. I volunteered in this position and I did the social media for this position. And I wasn't able to look at all of the different things that I'd done over that time and been like, you had no idea how to make bread and you learned. You had no idea how to garden and you learned. You had no idea how to homeschool and you learned. All I saw was a 10-year work gap. And so it was a confidence thing. It wasn't anybody else's had put it on me, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So when you think about those management skills of being a mother versus coming in and being a manager in a workplace, you're dealing with kids on one side and managing all their schedules and the schedule for the entire house. And then you come into a workplace where you're managing employees and getting everyone on the same page to move in a single direction towards accomplishing some project or whatever the goal for the company is. In my mind, it seems to be a direct correlation between good mothers are probably going to be good managers. Do you agree with that?
I think so. Honestly, I really think so in a way that, outside of at this moment, I know where my kids are, what they're doing, when their next appointments are, what their school schedule is, when my husband needs to be where, and he will ask because he has no idea. And then all of their personality types. And I know if I ask this kid to do something with this tone of voice, they're not going to do it because he'll just sit down and ignore me. But if I ask this kid with the exact same tone of voice, that means go do it, mom means it right now. That translates very well into management. I know where all of our employees are right now. I know that this one over here is sick, and I know that this one over here, if I ask her to do it too friendly, she thinks I mean at her convenience. But this one over here, if I ask too mean, he gets, bothered by that. And so learning to manage not just people's schedules, but their personality types and like, how do I challenge you to be the best version of yourself? Because that's what mothering is. I want my kids to be the absolute best version of themselves. That's what management is. If my employees aren't thriving and doing their best, then the rest of it falls apart. So I think, yeah, hire more moms.
Let's dig into the 10-year gap and your desire level to come back into the workforce, because right now I've seen it play out for a lot of women who say, I can never be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. And that's when the baby's on the way. Yeah. I noticed a real trigger change the moment that baby pops out and they're on maternity leave, and you start to hear a little bit of a different tone of, I don't really want to do that job. I want to do this job. This is what I want to be with. Walk me through that transition and lead me up to when you made the decision that you wanted to go back. Where did the psychology change?
Honestly, I think we were created that way. I think God knew women needed to be this, and we were created to want to be with our babies. And when I had my daughter, that wasn't a choice. At the time, I was a single mom, and days after she was born, I was handing her to my mother so I could go back to work. There wasn't a choice in the matter. And so being handed my son 7 years later, and we were in a good place financially, and I married, and my husband had adopted my daughter, so we were in this like cozy place, and my stepson was, like we were all in a good place. There was no ands, ifs, or about it. This is where I get to be. Like, this is my right as his mother to be the one who sees his first steps, who, all of those things that you might miss. Like my babysitters, I was just like, don't tell me if she does something while I'm gone. And then with my son, it was, I get to be the person who saw it, know. And so I think that I genuinely believe we were created to be that way, just like a lot of times men feel this need to like provide. My version of provision for my kids was to be there.
So how does that change now when you get to your youngest is 10 years old and you have this desire, let's say 3 years ago when he's 7, that I want to go back into the workforce? Okay, it's kind of that same striking change from I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom to, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, to now I am a stay-at-home mom and all of a sudden I have some time on my hands, or I want to, like, walk me through what that feels like.
Well, when they're born, they need you so much. And so you don't need a gold star because baby is a gold star. But by the time they're 7, it was like, there's no no one's saying good job today because I cleaned the house, because the expectation had grown that that's what was going to happen. Tell your wife good job. It's a lot of work. And so part of it was this desire to go find something that I was kicking ass at again, to be honest. And part of it was, I have gotten to the point where I'm a well-oiled machine. I wake up, I do this. Like everything was getting done. And I was like, so now what? You can only spend so much time at the gym. And I didn't, all of a sudden I had found myself bored, and I don't like bored. I want to be accomplishing something. So it was a lot of different things that kind of turned into that, but it was also a desire to find a job that gave me the flexibility piece to be able to say, I can still be there for my kid if he's sick. I can still go help with the PTA. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is that my kids need, I wanted both worlds. And so it was find a job that gave me both worlds.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And talk to me about that, because that is a limitation that would keep a woman coming back into the workforce from being able to just go climb any corporate ladder.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of girlfriends who are really, that's the juggling act for them. They're like, how can I make this job fit into this hole where I want to be off when my kids step off the bus after school? I want to be the one picking them up. So yeah, it's hard. It was definitely a God thing. Like all of the stars aligned, and I, met the right person who introduced me to the right person who, it definitely wasn't a lack of, I didn't do something magical to get myself to the position to start chasing the dream. So I do think that, yes, I can appreciate that it's hard, but I think remote work in 2020 really gave stay-at-home moms the upper hand, as much as COVID sucked, the opening the doors to remote work was really cool for, I think, stay-at-home moms going back into the workforce.
Yeah. I would push back a little bit on you saying that it wasn't something that you did to put yourself in the situation that you're in right now. Because I think that insinuates that, you just got lucky to find the job that you did. Talk to me through your transition from getting the job to going to get increased responsibility, because I think that separates you from most people.
Yeah. Once I had the job, then it's on me. And that's the part that I think you can either do the job and be mediocre at it and whatever. That's not how I operate. And so the way that I am hardwired is, if we're doing this, we're doing it 110%. And so I went into the job with zero confidence. I was like, I don't deserve this position. 3 months in, I remember my manager calling me and being like, hey, so this person stepped down. Do you want to take both positions? And we'll call it this, but it's 2 people's positions. And I was like, I get a raise? I didn't know that was even in the realm of things, but something about that made me realize, I can chase this as far as I want. And that really did change this structure in my mind of every time I realized, okay, I've got everything I'm going to do in a day figured out, ask for something else, bug people hey, is there anything else you need me to help with? They say no. I reach out to this person, or, hey, is there anything you want to teach me? And start chasing, give me more things, teach me more things, and being able to say, I have no idea how to do that. I can figure it out. Let me figure it out. Let me try at least. And just being able to chase the dream and give it that 110% while you're on the clock. That's the part that it was my responsibility.
Yeah. Well, maybe the key there in what you just said is that understanding and the confidence that now comes from, oh yeah, I know how to learn. I can pretty much do anything. So I'm not just limited to the skill set I came in with on my resume and the job I was hired for. And then to caveat that, or to build on top of that, the willingness to ask for more. Do you think that most women leave money on the table in their employment because they aren't willing to ask for more?
Yes.
They aren't willing to look for more responsibility?
I think most women leave money on the table because they don't have the confidence to say, I deserve more. You don't see men sitting back and being like, hey, I can't go on that work trip because my kids need me. You don't see men sitting back and being like, hey, I'm not going to be able to meet that deadline because I need to take the kids on a play date. So being able to balance, like, yes, I love my life over here, but being able to say, like, I deserve a job and a career that, like, fulfills me and I'm amazing at, that is a problem for women, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That this ability to say, like, hey, like, I can do more, challenge me.
Yeah. There's that whole term of like sprout where you're planted.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like if it's one of those, you're in the wrong situation, the wrong environment,
Mm-hmm.
then you do hit a glass ceiling pretty quick
Yeah.
if you're worried about meeting your kids at the bus stop after school.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of employers, I think, who are very end state driven, but there's also a level of personal responsibility in
Yeah.
if you do have a glass ceiling, like you could go somewhere else or find that other role. Is that a
Yeah.
good way to characterize it for other women that don't feel as happy in their role as you feel in yours, or they feel
Yeah.
like they have hit a glass ceiling?
I mean, yeah, I think that there's something to be said for make the time for what's important to you. So I love my job. I get made fun of because someone asked me what my hobby was recently, and I was like, well, I really like my job. And my husband's like, stop saying that to people. It's embarrassing. But if it's important to you and you want to shatter that glass ceiling, I do pick my son up from school. If, well, his 18-year-old sister can't, I pick him up from school. And then, while he's doing his homework, we sit down and I'm working and he's working. And then at night, if, we're all watching a show as a family, I'm also, drafting things on my laptop. And my family knows I'm chasing my dreams. And I would never tell my daughter, like, hey, you know what, your dream is this. You have to watch this movie with us. You know what I mean? Like, my family's watching me chase my dreams. And so we fit it in where it fits. And so I think, yes, you can have both worlds, but you just have to prioritize what's important to you. And if your job and your career and breaking through that glass ceiling is important to you, you're going to fit it in because it's important.
Yeah. For the people that say that women are willing to just accept less and that explains some of the pay gap in between men and women, I think it's less of a deal today than it was
Yeah.
3-4 years ago, and certainly beyond that too. But the psychology around being willing to accept less and underselling themselves, because I know very few men in a work environment who ever undersell. It's always, I'm doing way, like that company would literally go bankrupt without me. That's how men talk. And that might be like the guy who's doing nothing, who works like 2 hours a day. It's certainly a difference between men and women. But what would you say to women to take on more of that, to achieve more of that desire to chase both the family life and the work life at the same time? Is it be more like men?
It's never be more like men.
Okay. So what is it then?
I think I keep coming back to that confidence piece because I really think it is when you realize like your value, you're going to be able to be more confident. But I understand my value in one of the companies I work for. I know that I am 100% irreplaceable. Nobody actually knows what I do during the day. And I wanted to ask for a raise, and I was still like, how do I do this? ChatGPT, how do I ask for? It was stupid, and there was no questions asked. It was like, oh, yes, of course. And it was no questions asked. But I still probably shouldn't be giving out great advice. ChatGPT, no. But I think that women struggle with the confidence, but if we're talking about a pay gap, give me a pay gap if that means that I have the flexibility to also be a mom. And so I think the pay gap argument is stupid, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask about that too. But
how do you balance this confidence you talk about and saying that women need more confidence against the idea of fake it till you make it, which you've told me you don't believe in that?
yeah, I hate fake it till you make it.
Why is that?
Because it's not authentic. You're not being real and you're not going to grow. If I'm pretending I know, as opposed to saying like, hey, I have no clue how to do that, but give me the opportunity, I'm going to figure it out. And I've opened the door to be able to say like, hey, help. And I've opened the door to be like, okay, now I would like my gold star because I figured it out. You know what I mean? And there's so much confidence to be had the day you figured it out. And the day that you figure it out, I can figure it out again. Like, keep throwing stuff at me. I'll figure it out. But if you're just sitting around faking it, you're living unauthentic and you're not building confidence because you're a liar.
Yeah. I think employers see that too, because there's that semblance of you come in faking it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And you put off this bravado that like, I know how to do this already. I can get this stuff done.
Yeah.
You're faking it. And then you end up over promising and under delivering on
Yeah.
it. What did you find as you were authentic about, here's the skill set that I have, the limitations, and this eagerness to learn on the other side of it? Like, I can go teach myself and just go figure it out. Talk to me about how that moved you forward in your career once you were owning the fact and you weren't faking it anymore.
Once I had the confidence to be able to say, like, hey, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. There was things that were handed to me that I was like, well, I didn't want to have to figure that one out. But there was also things that I was like, I never would have imagined that someone would trust me with this. I didn't think someone would trust me with running their podcast because I'd never watched a podcast before. But you want me to figure it out? Let's go. Let's figure it out. I don't know. I think what I found is confidence.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that breeds confidence the most, this comes from my time in the military, is we would have these things called confidence courses. You have a water confidence course. You could have I forget what they called it. It was like a heights confidence course. But they would put you through things that would make you extremely uncomfortable. And then you come out the other side and you're still alive. Like, you get to walk across a 40-foot balance beam.
Yeah.
And the bar's like this, and you're thinking in your mind, like,
No.
I can't do this. My legs are shaking, and there's a step in the middle I have to go over. But when you come down the other side of it, you realize, okay, my body's not going to let me die, number one. And you have the confidence that if I do that again, I've been there before, I've done it. And maybe the challenge isn't going to be a balance beam the next time, but it's just something else that's hard, that terrifies me, but I've been there and done it before.
Yeah.
As you think about motherhood and then going back into the workplace, are you conscious about how uncomfortable and how little you knew about something that you ended up mastering as you're now in a business sense taking on other types of challenges? Or is that not a straight line for you?
I feel like it's a straight line. So the question is there things similar to motherhood that were, challenging
Or did you
in the
see
same
like
way?
those that you overcame things in motherhood that you thought might be either really hard or impossible?
Yeah.
And then you get into the workplace and it's kind of like, oh, well, if I figured that out,
Yeah.
this should be pretty simple. If I can keep a human being alive, a podcast shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah. There's definitely things. Some of the things that I think maybe branched me out more were things like volunteering positions that I had no idea how to do. One of the things I did when I was a stay-at-home mom is I volunteered as our church youth leader for 4 years because no one else was available to do it. And I went into it like, I am not a fun person. I do not know how to plan a game. I can talk to you about Jesus, but I do not know how to be fun. But then you do it and you figure it out. And then one day somebody's like, you're really fun, Jacqui. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. And there's things like that are real world experiences that if you take those things that happen on accident and you bring them into work and you're like, okay, if I can keep a baby alive, figure out how to feed it, figure out how to feed all of the people while I'm keeping the baby alive, which is almost harder. And then I can also, be the fun person leading this group, or I can, whatever it is, that's your real world experience. And then you take that into management and you say like, okay, I'm capable of figuring anything out because my children are still alive today.
There's this book called The Magic of Thinking Big.
Yeah.
And the basic premise of it is that whatever you believe is possible is what you end up reverse engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept of thinking bigger or wanting more For instance, you saying, my goal is to get a job that pays me $10 an hour, very different from my goal is to be making six figures.
Mm-hmm.
Six figures puts you in what, top 20, 30% of
Yeah.
income earners in this country. One of the things that you articulated a long time ago was that you wanted to be a six-figure earner. I think from the flash to bang of saying it and then thinking, am I positioned to do it or am I not? But saying that out loud of what it is
Yeah.
that you're looking for, which is drastically different than what you said you wanted 3 years ago at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. Walk us through that transformation of what you internally wanted and what you vocalized and what the impact of vocalizing it was.
Yeah. I think that there is something to be said by surrounding yourself with big thinkers, because it took me being around other big thinkers. You know, when I was in the stay-at-home mom world, again, they're going to come from me. I wasn't around people who were thinking like, hey, I want to make six figures. I was around people who were like, yeah, you know, I might sell my bread so that we can have a couple extra dollars and plan like a summer vacay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so once I was in the business world, I was able to say, like, hey, I want more. What's more look like to you? What's more look like to you? What's more look like to you? And then one day I was like, hey, this is what my more is. And I think that there is something to be said by the people you surround yourself with, the bigger you get to think. And so I think that transition happened when I was being surrounded with more business people and more big thinkers who were asking bigger questions. And I realized I get to dream as big as I want. And so once I hit that goal, then it was like, okay, what's my next big dream?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think that is such a great thing about being around people that want really big things in life, because it makes you challenge, like, what do I want?
Yeah.
Should I want more?
Yeah.
Like, should I be thinking that I want more, reverse engineering that piece of it? Because to your point, the moment you said you wanted it, okay, you put a plan in action to go and achieve it. And anyone can do the same thing, but you have to be positioned somewhere that that can actually happen.
Yeah.
So what's your advice thinking about your life in the prospects versus where you've ended up? What's your advice to the younger version of yourself from a desire standpoint? Like, what would you say to an 18-year-old Jacqui about how you want your life to turn out?
Well, I have an 18-year-old Jacqui. And the
So you
thing
said
that,
these things then.
yes, I was like, I have given this advice. The thing that I tell my daughter all of the time is your only stop is your confidence. Just have confidence. And she might be way too confident, because I'm always just, the more confident a woman is, the bigger her dreams get to be. You can have it all. You just have to believe you can and then chase it.
Yeah. Some people think that overconfidence is a bad thing. And there's that line between being overconfident and being delusional.
Yeah.
But as long as you stay in the overconfidence realm of it, if it was a man, wouldn't we just call that ambition?
Exactly.
You know? It's like, why can't I take over the whole world? He was ambitious, not overconfident.
Yeah.
But is it women that allow me to say a statement like that?
Yeah.
If it was a man, it would just be ambition.
Exactly. No, I think that you were very real. It's women are afraid of, you know, these negative connotations when it's just be ambitious. And what that looks like for us is be confident in whatever your stage of life you're in. And for women, that stage is different all of the time. No one asked you to stay home when the girls were born, because that's not your place. And so whatever that position is you're in, whether it's, you know, pre-kids or during kids or after kids, like, be confident in that stage and chase it to its highest potential, because whatever the next stage is going to thank you for how hard you worked in that stage.
Yeah. It definitely compounds one over the other, you know? And
if I sat around while I was a stay-at-home mom, I wouldn't be as confident right now.
yeah. Yeah. With that in mind, because I think there are a lot of people who are about to go through the phase that you're in, or who are going through the phase that you're in right now, especially about coming back into the workforce. Advice for that interview process and mom skills versus job skills,
Yeah.
and being able to talk through that.
Yeah. I didn't have ChatGPT at this time. I had my sister, and I just laid out like these are the skills that I have. But I probably, if I had it now, would utilize that. Put in everything you've done as a stay-at-home mom and translate that into what does that look like in the workforce? Because things don't have to be apples for apples. Like sometimes you've just got a lot of things and you can show I'm capable of learning and working hard. Give me the opportunity. And in my experience, there's a lot of respect for that.
In a post-chat GPT world, is that where women should be going for
Yeah.
their confidence to be able to make those
Yeah. I mean,
straight
if you don't
lines?
have a person who can help you connect the dots, put it all in there. Like, I did not know how to make bread. I learned how. I did not know how to, I volunteered doing this, 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 this. What does that look like in the workforce?
Yeah.
Have somebody else help you, whether it's a person or ChatGPT, and just figure out what your real world experience is that looks like the dream you're trying to chase.
Yeah. Well, you've made a great transition. The one thing I disagree with you on is fake it till you make it. And we'll talk about that some other time because we're out of time today. But I appreciate you sharing these insights because I know that there's a lot of people who are out there who are going through a journey like this and they need to hear a success story of like, you can do this and you can take these skill sets that you have and translate them into actual job skills.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming and doing this. This was fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.